Another update. I've got, well, most of the hardware sort of working or investigated at least. The wireless is now working. I've got a couple of serial EEPROM chips soldered on and they seem to be working after a little bit of fiddling with the code. The real-time clock, I've got a real-time clock on there and I've managed to set it counting, so it keeps time. Now the real-time clock and the power circuit have got a few problems, so I think before I continue with those I'm going to have to redesign the power circuit. I've ended up with battery voltage on one of the real-time clock pins, which isn't good, so I've had to disconnect that, so I can't get any interrupts, 1 second pulses or anything like that from the real-time clock at the moment. So there's going to have to be another set of PCBs because there's just too many modifications now on these. There's something like 25 on the main board and something like 15 on the power PCB, mainly due to the power problems that occurred and various other things to do with signals missing and so on. So I need to now, I think I need to work out exactly what's wrong before I make the new boards, but I think I'm at that point now. I've got enough modifications that I'm going to probably spin another couple of boards, which is going to take a little while to do because I've got to do some redesign of some of the power circuits. I don't know whether to prototype the power circuit or just prototype it on a PCB. I think probably on a PCB because it's difficult prototyping with the exact components I'm using, and also you need quite a lot of other things going in order to work out that circuit's working. So this will probably become the version 1 prototype, and then I'll move on to the version 2 or 1.1 or something. It's not really that different. Another bit of hardware I've tested is the buzzer. So that was driven from a shift register off the main Pico processor's GPIO bus, and I was a bit concerned that it wouldn't be fast enough to generate an audio tone. So I wrote a test mode in the code, which is hard coded. You have to actually flip a compile time switch to get it to come up in that test mode. It's not something you can select from the keyboard. And I ran it and I didn't really get a very good sound out. It was very low frequency and very quiet. But after a bit of experimentation I found out that the Pico was actually driving the beeper too fast, and I was ending up with a much higher frequency. It must have been about 100 kilohertz or something, which the buzzer wasn't actually responding to quite well, and must have been hearing some harmonics or something. So if I run the test mode now, I've got a sweeping frequency, and you'll be able to hear, hopefully, that that is actually generating pretty loud and pretty high frequency sound. So I think I'll shut that off. I think the buzzer's working, and that was the last bit of hardware that I was a little bit concerned about. So yeah, so the Wi-Fi's working. I'll run through that in a later video. I think that's working much more reliably. I've also made myself a little butterfly prototyping board. So this is a way that I can split the boards open and get to the circuitry for testing stuff, because normally they're folded together in a sandwich and you can't really get in very easily. On the original boards it was a ribbon cable and you could bend it open and closed. Well, in my experience about 3 times, and then the wires fell off. So I'm using 0.1 inch headers, and obviously you can't fold those open, so I've had to make myself one of those, which has come in handy. But yeah, I think the next step is probably to look at the artwork and get the PCBs adjusted, and also redesign or modify slightly. It's not really a total redesign, but a modification of the power circuit, and then spin the version 2 boards, and then test them, I suppose, when they come back. There's a few things I'd like to look at, but there's quite a lot of code in there. Bluetooth is one thing that I haven't really looked at. The module, the Wi-Fi module in here, the room, should be able to do Bluetooth, so that should be possible. But it was quite a lot of effort getting effectively a small web server running in here for the Wi-Fi, and I'm going to have to do the same thing again for the Bluetooth. I think get some sort of master or slave server running on it. But that should be possible. The room module does take quite a lot of current, and you can warm your hands on it more or less. It generates quite a lot of heat. I was surprised at that. It may be the way I'm running it, but that does tend to eat into the batteries. So I'm running the batteries off USB at the moment. I've got a USB cable in the bottom of the PP3 rechargeable, which seems okay. External power, that was another problem. That's part of the whole power scheme. It turns out I was overdriving the transistors that I'm using for the switching of the power, so I think that was why I blew up a Pico when I tried out external power. That's what this butterfly arrangement was originally for, so I could test the power circuit, which is a combination of both PCBs. It's not all on one PCB. So I think that's part of the power circuit redesign. I need to look at that. But anyway, yeah, I'll do another video on the Wi-Fi. There's quite a few things in there, and that's sort of where the hardware is at the moment.